The Drachnid warship chorus sliced through the darkness of space, its obsidian hull reflecting the distant starlight like rippling water. Commander Vexler stood at the bridge, his scaled hands clasped behind his back as he watched the unauthorized vessel on their scanners. It was barely larger than an escape pod, hovering near the forbidden moon of Nexus VI. "Life signs?" he asked, mandibles clicking with irritation. "One occupant, Commander. Human. Elderly, based on biosignatures," reported Lieutenant Zara, her clawed fingers dancing across the holographic display. Vexler's inner eyelids narrowed. Humans were not permitted in this sector, not since the Quantum Wars 30 years ago. Their ship had been patrolling the border of Drachnid space when they detected the anomaly. A single human, especially an aged one, seemed hardly worth their attention. Yet protocol demanded investigation of all breaches. "Bring them in," he ordered. Carefully. The tractor beam engaged, drawing the small vessel into their hangar bay. Security teams assembled, weapons charged but set to stun. When the airlock cycled open, they found only a frail-looking human male with silver hair and weather-worn features, dressed in simple civilian clothes. He offered no resistance as they secured his hands with quantum-dampening cuffs, standard procedure for any human prisoner since their species' notorious affinity for quantum manipulation. "I'm Dr. Rowan Harrison," the old man said pleasantly, as if he were introducing himself at an academic conference rather than being arrested. "Lovely ship you have here." Commander Vexler studied the human as he was brought to the bridge. There was something about Harrison's calm demeanor that made his scales itch. The human's eyes held a sharp intelligence that belied his aged appearance. "You are in violation of the Nexus Accords," Vexler stated formally. "This sector is forbidden to human vessels. Explain your presence." Harrison shrugged, the movement making him appear even more fragile. "Would you believe I got lost? The navigation systems aren't what they used to be." "You expect me to believe a human accidentally wandered into one of the most heavily restricted zones in the galaxy?" Vexler's tail lashed in annoyance. "Our scans showed your vessel was conducting some form of analysis of the moon's quantum field." "Ah, you noticed that?" Harrison smiled. "Just scientific curiosity. I'm a retired physicist. Old habits die hard." "Taken to detention level 3, Vexler ordered. Full quantum dampening protocols." As the guards led Harrison away, Lieutenant Zara approached her commander. "Sir, I've been running his identity through our databases. There's something strange. All records of this human seem to end abruptly 30 years ago, right before the Quantum Wars began." "Interesting timing," Vexler mused. "Expand the search. I want to know everything about our guest." In his cell, Harrison sat quietly on the simple bunk, still wearing that mysterious smile. The quantum dampening field hummed around him, designed to prevent any manipulation of subatomic particles, humanity's greatest weapon during the wars. The guards watched him through the energy barrier, unnerved by his apparent lack of concern. What they couldn't see were the microscopic quantum processors embedded throughout Harrison's nervous system, dormant for decades, but now slowly awakening. The dampening field, ironically, provided the perfect resonance frequency to power them up. Each cell in his body had been modified at the quantum level, transformations that had cost him his youth, but given him capabilities that even his own people had feared. The ship's quantum core pulsed 60 decks below, and Harrison could feel it like a heartbeat. He closed his eyes, remembering the laboratory where they'd made him what he was. The faces of his colleagues as they realized what their research had created. The decision to go into exile rather than become a weapon. "You should have left me alone," he whispered, though no one could hear him. Some doors are better left closed. The first anomaly appeared 6 hours into his detention. A slight fluctuation in the ship's gravity field, so minor that only the most sensitive instruments detected it. By the time anyone thought to check the readings, Harrison had already begun mapping the quantum architecture of every system aboard the Chorus. In the medical bay, a young Drachnid scientist named Kira was reviewing the prisoner's biological scans with growing confusion. The cellular structure was unlike anything she'd seen in a human before. Layer upon layer of quantum modifications, some so subtle they almost appeared natural. She began cross-referencing with classified files from the war period, and what she found made her scales pale. "Commander," she called over the ship's comm. "I think you need to see this immediately. Our prisoner, he's not just any physicist. According to these records, Dr. Rowan Harrison was the lead architect of Project Prometheus, the quantum enhancement program that nearly won the war for humanity." In his cell, Harrison opened his eyes. The quantum processors had finished their initialization sequence. Now it was time to show the Drachnids exactly why his own people had feared him enough to let him disappear. He stood slowly, joints creaking with age, and placed one wrinkled hand against the energy barrier. Across the ship, every quantum-based system simultaneously equipped. In that microsecond of disruption, Harrison's consciousness expanded through the quantum field, touching every circuit, every power conduit, every weapons system. The Chorus herself seemed to shudder, as if recognizing a new master. The energy barrier of his cell flickered and died. As alarms began to wail throughout the ship, Harrison stepped into the corridor. A guard raised his weapon, but it refused to fire. "I tried to live quietly," Harrison said softly, to no one in particular. "I really did." The quantum war was about to have one last battle, and the Drachnids were about to learn why some humans were better left alone. Commander Wexler sprinted toward the detention level, his claws clicking against the metallic floor. The ship's emergency lighting cast crimson shadows across his scales as system after system failed around him. Security doors sealed and unsealed at random, trapping crew members in corridors and chambers throughout the vessel. "Status report." He barked into his comm unit. "Weapons systems are offline." Lieutenant Zara's voice crackled back. "Navigation is compromised. We're detecting quantum fluctuations throughout the ship's core that don't match any known patterns." The commander rounded a corner to find Harrison standing calmly in the corridor, hands clasped behind his back. Two security officers lay unconscious at his feet, their neural systems temporarily disrupted by precise quantum pulses. "Let's talk properly now," Harrison said, his voice carrying the weight of decades. "No cells, no restraints, just two people discussing how to prevent a catastrophe." Vexthor's hand moved toward his sidearm, but Harrison shook his head. "That weapon, like everything else quantum-based on this ship, now answers to me. Please, Commander. I'm too old for theatrics." In the ship's medical bay, Kira frantically dug deeper into the classified files about Project Prometheus. Her eyes widened as she uncovered the truth about the quantum enhancement program. The humans hadn't just modified soldiers or created weapons. They had fundamentally rewritten the laws of physics around living tissue. "Commander," she transmitted, Harrison wasn't just the project leader. He was Patient Zero, the first successful quantum-human hybrid. In the corridor, Vexthor's inner eyelids flickered with recognition. "The ghost of Proxima," he whispered. "You're the one who destroyed the entire Drachnid Third Fleet without firing a single shot." Harrison's aged features seemed to sadden. "A regrettable necessity at the time. Your people were about to deploy quantum phase bombs, against Earth's civilian populations. I couldn't allow that. The lights throughout the ship stabilized as Harrison exerted more precise control over the systems. In the bridge, Lieutenant Zara watched in amazement as complex quantum equations wrote themselves across her displays, the ship's computers struggling to process calculations that defied conventional physics. "You don't understand what you've stumbled into," Harrison continued, walking slowly toward the commander. "I chose exile on that moon for a reason. The quantum field there helps mask what I am, helps keep certain forces dormant within me, forces that should remain buried." Deep in the ship's quantum core, energy patterns began to shift and coalesce. The Chorus's advanced sensors detected something unprecedented. The quantum field itself was bending around Harrison's presence, creating micro-universes that lived and died in milliseconds. Kira's voice broke through the calm again, urgent and frightened. "Commander, these files. Project Prometheus didn't end because it failed. It ended because it succeeded too well. The quantum modifications, they're still evolving, still growing. Every cell in his body is like a quantum computer, and they're all networked together. He's not just controlling our systems, he's rewriting the fundamental forces around him." Harrison closed his eyes, and for a moment his human form seemed to flicker, revealing something else beneath, a pattern of pure energy and possibility, barely contained within aging flesh. "I can feel them coming now," he said softly. "Your people never stopped looking for me, did they?" Vexthor's scales bristled as his long-range sensors detected multiple ships dropping out of quantum space, a Drachnid battle fleet, responding to automated distress calls they hadn't even known their ship was sending. "The Admiralty," the commander breathed. "They've been waiting for you to surface." "Yes," Harrison nodded. "And they'll sacrifice this entire ship and crew to capture me, just like they sacrificed the Third Fleet trying to kill me." His eyes opened, now glowing with quantum energy. "I won't allow that. Not again." Throughout the ship, crew members watched in horror and fascination as reality itself began to twist. Harrison's quantum modifications had grown far beyond their original design, evolving over 30 years of solitude. He wasn't just a weapon anymore. He was a doorway to possibilities that neither humans nor Drachnids had ever imagined. Lieutenant Zara's sensors detected the approaching fleet, 12 warships strong. But they also detected something else, something emerging from the quantum wake of their arrival. She enhanced the readings and felt her blood run cold. "Commander," she transmitted, "there's another fleet approaching. Human quantum signatures. They must have been tracking him too." Harrison smiled sadly at Vexthor. "And now you understand why I chose exile, why I had to disappear. Because when you combine quantum physics with human consciousness, you create something that everyone wants to control, and no one should." The chorus shuddered as the first shots were fired, not from the approaching fleets, but from within the quantum field itself. Harrison's presence was causing cascading reactions in reality around them, and the very fabric of space was beginning to unravel. "You have a choice to make, Commander," Harrison said as chaos erupted around them. "Help me prevent another war, or watch both our species tear reality apart, trying to possess power they don't understand." In the medical bay, Kira found one last file, encrypted beyond any standard she'd seen. As she broke through the security, she discovered the true purpose of Project Prometheus, and why Harrison had chosen to vanish. The knowledge made her scales crawl. The quantum modifications weren't meant to create weapons. They were meant to create gods. Time seemed to slow around the chorus as both Drachnid and human fleets approached, their quantum drives distorting the already unstable space around the ship. Commander Vexler watched as Harrison's form flickered again, the old man's human shell becoming increasingly transparent as the quantum energies within him responded to the approaching threat. "Your answer, Commander," Harrison prompted softly. "The fleets will be in firing range in 3 minutes." Before Vexthor could respond, Kira's voice cut through the ship's comm system. "Commander, you need to see this now. Project Prometheus wasn't just about military applications. They were trying to create beings who could manipulate the quantum foundation of reality itself. Beings who could reshape the universe. And they succeeded," Harrison added, his voice carrying an echo of other possibilities, other timelines. "Just not in the way they expected. The modifications didn't just change our bodies, they changed our perception of reality itself. Imagine seeing every possible outcome of every possible action, all at once. Imagine knowing that every decision creates or destroys entire universes." The ship's quantum core pulsed faster as Harrison's presence influenced it. On the bridge, Lieutenant Zara watched as impossible data scrolled across her screens, calculations showing alternate timelines, parallel dimensions, paths not taken. "The approaching fleets," she reported. "They're splitting. I'm seeing multiple versions of each ship, each following a different probability stream." Harrison raised his hand, and suddenly everyone aboard the chorus could see what he saw. The walls of the ship became transparent, revealing the space around them as a web of quantum possibilities. Each approaching vessel existed in multiple states simultaneously, their quantum drives creating ripples in reality itself. "This is what I see all the time," Harrison explained, his voice tired. "Every moment, every choice, branching into infinite possibilities. The quantum modifications didn't just give us power, they gave us perspective. That's why I chose exile. Because no one should have to bear this burden." In the medical bay, Kira's research had led her to a terrifying conclusion. "Commander, the modifications, they're not stable. The more they evolve, the more they affect the quantum field around them. If Harrison fully loses control, reality itself would unravel," Harrison finished for her. "Starting here and spreading outward like a quantum cascade. Both fleets approaching us now think they can contain this power, use it. They don't understand that they're playing with forces that could unmake existence itself." The ship shuddered as the first quantum torpedoes were launched from the Drachnid fleet. Harrison's eyes glowed brighter, and the torpedoes simply ceased to exist, their quantum signatures erased from reality itself. "I can keep this up," he said, strain showing on his increasingly translucent face, "but each intervention creates more instability. The quantum field is already beginning to collapse around us." Commander Vexler made his decision. "Lieutenant Zara, broadcast on all frequencies, both fleets. Tell them to stand down or we'll be forced to defend ourselves." "They won't listen," Harrison warned. "They spent 30 years searching for me. The power I represent, it's too tempting." In space around them, reality continued to fragment. The human fleet had launched their own weapons, experimental quantum disruptors designed specifically to capture beings like Harrison. But as the weapons approached, they too encountered the chaotic quantum field surrounding the chorus. The results were catastrophic. Reality shattered like glass around the destructor beams, creating tears in space-time itself. Through these tears, other versions of the chorus became visible. Versions where different choices had been made, different paths taken. "It's beginning," Harrison said, his form now barely holding its human shape. "The quantum cascade. Once it starts, it can't be stopped. Unless—" He turned to Vexthor, his eyes now windows into infinite possibility. "There is one way, but it would require both our species to work together, to admit that some powers are too great for anyone to control. Kira's voice came through again, urgent and afraid. "Commander, the quantum field is collapsing exponentially. We have minutes at most before it reaches critical mass." Around them, crew members began seeing multiple versions of themselves, quantum possibilities becoming visible to normal eyes as reality broke down further. Some versions were peaceful scholars, others hardened warriors. All were equally real, equally possible. "Your choice, Commander," Harrison said, as both fleets moved into attack position. "Help me show them why some doors should remain closed, or watch as their hunger for power destroys everything." The quantum core of the chorus pulsed one final time, and Harrison's human form finally dissolved completely, revealing what 30 years of quantum evolution had created: a being of pure possibility, a nexus of infinite choices and consequences. The fate of reality itself now hung on what would happen in the next few moments, as three forces converged around a ship trapped between dimensions, carrying a being who had become something more than human, yet desperately wished he wasn't. Time itself seemed to hold its breath, waiting to see which possibility would become reality. Would you like me to continue with Part 4? This section reveals the true scope of Harrison's condition, while escalating the conflict to its critical point. The story now balances on the edge of multiple possibilities, setting up the crucial decisions that will determine the outcome. Reality fractured like a kaleidoscope around the chorus as Commander Vexler made his choice. "All hands," he broadcast shipwide, "prepare for quantum displacement. Lieutenant Zara, divert all power to the shields." A wise choice. Harrison's voice echoed from everywhere and nowhere, his physical form now a shifting constellation of quantum possibilities. But they won't let us go easily. The approaching fleets opened fire simultaneously, their weapons cutting through the fragmenting space around the ship. But each shot created new tears in reality, each tear showing glimpses of other timelines, other choices. In the medical bay, Kira worked frantically, combining her findings about Project Prometheus with the chorus's quantum shield specifications. "Commander, I think I understand what Dr. Harrison became. He's not just controlling quantum fields. He's become a quantum field himself, a conscious one. And that consciousness is spreading," Harrison's voice confirmed. Through the quantum tears, they could see versions of the battle playing out differently. Timelines where the shots hit, where the ship was destroyed, where peace was achieved, all existing simultaneously. The fleets, Zara reported from the bridge, they're multiplying. Each quantum tear is creating duplicate versions from other timelines. They're all converging here. Harrison's consciousness expanded through the ship, his presence touching every crew member's mind. They saw what he saw, the weight of infinite possibilities, the burden of knowing every outcome, the terrible beauty of quantum reality unbound. "This is what they wanted to control," he shared. "This is what humanity and the Drachnids have been fighting over. But they never understood. It's not a weapon. It's evolution itself." Commander Vexthor watched as reality continued to splinter around them. In some timelines, he saw his younger self fighting in the quantum wars. In others, he was a peace negotiator, a scientist, a rebel. All possibilities, all real. How do we stop this? He asked the being that had once been Harrison. "We don't stop it," came the answer. "We transcend it." In the final moments, as reality threatened to unravel completely, Harrison's consciousness made one last evolution. The quantum field around the chorus began to stabilize, but not through force or control. Instead, it began to harmonize. "Watch," Harrison's voice whispered through every quantum possibility. This is what Project Prometheus was really about. Not domination, understanding. The tiers in reality didn't close, they transformed. Through each one, both fleets could see the consequences of their actions, the endless ripples of their choices. They saw worlds where their species had worked together, where quantum technology had been used to heal rather than harm. In the medical bay, Kira's instruments recorded something unprecedented. The quantum field, it's not collapsing anymore. It's teaching. Harrison's consciousness touched every mind on every ship in every timeline, not with force, but with insight. They felt what he had felt during his 30 years of exile. The interconnectedness of all possibilities, the fundamental unity underlying reality itself. This was always the true potential, Harrison explained, his form now a bridge between all timelines. Not to control quantum reality, but to understand our place within it. Every choice matters. Every possibility is sacred. Commander Wexler understood at last. You didn't run away to hide your power, he said. You ran away to perfect it. To learn how to share it without destroying everything. Yes, Harrison's consciousness confirmed. And now at last I can. The quantum field pulsed one final time, and reality shifted. Not violently, but like a lens coming into focus. The tears remained, but now they were windows rather than wounds. Through them, both fleets could see the true legacy of Project Prometheus, a way for consciousness itself to evolve beyond the boundaries of single timelines. I offer you a choice, Harrison's voice echoed through all possibilities. Continue fighting over the power to change reality, or learn to understand the reality you already have. One by one, the weapons powered down. In timeline after timeline, ships stood down. The quantum field stabilized not through force, but through understanding. In the end, the chorus became more than a ship. It became a nexus, a place where different timelines could connect and learn from each other. Harrison's consciousness remained as a guardian and teacher, helping both species understand the true nature of quantum reality. The war was never about power, his voice echoed one last time. It was about perspective, and now, at last, you have it. Commander Wexler stood on his bridge, watching as the tears in reality became permanent windows between possibilities. His ship would never return to its original timeline. It couldn't. Instead, it would serve as a bridge between all timelines, a living testament to the power of understanding over control. In the medical bay, Kira began documenting what they'd learned, not as weapons specs or tactical advantages, but as a new field of science. Quantum consciousness studies, she called it. And somewhere, in every timeline, an old human scientist finally found peace, his burden now transformed into a gift for all consciousness to share. The quantum wars were over. The age of quantum understanding had begun. Tilled the end tilled.